People don't believe I'm going to be 75.
Well, you told me that what's on Wikipedia is wrong, but that is what it says.
Yeah. It also has me being married to this person that I was.
Right. Okay, I was going to ask you about that.
That third person. Anybody got Wikipedia?
Matt can get it up in a second.
Yeah. As soon as he stops yawning.
Well, we are not really on today.
Exciting.
I think he's got music on. He's not paying attention.
Hey, Matt, can you look up?
Can you go to his wiki page and?
Can you go to my wiki page and find out who I've been married to?
All the.
There's a third name that is just unbelievable.
He's like Henry VIII.
How many did?
Dora
what?
Zeberland.
Yeah, Dora Zeberland.
Now, are you sure? And you
No.
just don't remember.
I mean, like I blacked out
Like a
for about
Vegas
5
thing.
years.
Like one Vegas night,
No.
came back with herpes.
I love you, Dora.
Katie Mitchell.
Yes.
Well, that's
And then Kasha, but
Yeah.
it's a different last name. It's
Osland, yeah.
That's her.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
You got 5
But
kids.
Dora, what's her last name?
Zeberland.
can we get her on the podcast?
I guess. Dora Zeberland.
You think she owes you that?
Says married 82, divorced 91.
Listen, that's 9 years you should remember.
That's so odd. Who
This
writes?
person doesn't exist.
I've never met a Dora Zeberland.
Are you sure?
I think Dora Zeberland made the call on that one. Oh yeah, I was married to him.
She's like, no, it's not that guy. It's the guy that reminds you of Jeffrey Tambor.
Yeah. It's what did I get at school the other day? Elliot
Elliot
Gould.
Gould, yeah. Okay.
Love your work, Mr.
You
Gould.
don't remind me of Elliot. You know that person went home and they're like, oh my God.
She
I
did,
can't
and
believe
she
what
told
I
me.
did." Oh, really?
Yeah, she told me. Because if you put a picture of Elliot Gould next to mine, we look nothing alike. We actually know each other and like each other. We're actually friends.
Let's get him. I love Elliot Gould.
I love Elliot Gould.
I love
How funny
his
is he
movies
in the ocean stuff?
Yeah, and MASH.
Yeah.
My God, it's Elliot Gould. There was a time where he was as big as it gets.
Oh, yeah. And he was married to Miss Streisand. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah.
And you might have been too at this point.
No, my heart belongs to Dora, apparently.
It says that somewhere else. It says that
Easy. Easy.
it's Molly's mother.
Why haven't we
Molly's
got-
mother?
Is Dora.
Dora is Molly's mother? No, Joyce is Molly's mother.
Are you sure?
I don't know.
Were you there in the operating room when
I think it's a Vegas
Molly
marriage.
came out? That's
You
good.
know what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. You know how many times
It's
that
your line.
do you know how many times that is said back to me on a weekly basis? A lot.
I mean,
Hey,
go
what happens in Vegas?
0.2 times a week, realistically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually never,
right.
but once in a while.
You in the mirror.
But I had no idea. Yeah, doing lines, famous lines and famous bits. Hi. But I want to plug my deal now, which
deal?
well, this is where
Have you been cheating on me? What are we doing?
now I love this music.
I know you do.
I just love it now. That's how bad my ethics have changed.
No, this is.
I
this
hate
is-
doing the podcast.
It's a solid melody.
Do you know that I have not changed about the podcast?
No, I know.
Every morning when I get up and she and I drive, Dora and I, to work here, I go, I'm not feeling it. I say the same thing in the front seat. I'm not feeling it.
Right.
And then I get here and I talk to you, and of course listening to this unbelievable music, and I get into a better mood. I also every once in a while imagine someone sitting at home saying, "Does it get more boring than this?"
A little bit towards the end.
Yeah.
I don't think it's boring.
Do you think it's boring?
Do you know how
Matt?
many? Go listen to other podcasts. It's just people talking.
I have, and you know what? It's interesting because we have a whole different vibe than some of them are. I don't want to say.
I won't name this, but there's some of the biggest ones out there. I'll get 15, 20 minutes in. And I'm like,
Well, they're 2 hours
Well, see, I don't mind that. But
because you're in your car.
I'm in my
the way
car,
home.
or I used
Hey,
to
do you
be.
think I could teach up by you? By the way, I was talking about that.
I live down, but what do you mean? Like
you
where?
when we were talking to Morgan, you said you should come over there and teach.
Oh, at that theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
Well, why? Where? And then all of a sudden there was
Yeah.
silence.
Well, I mean, I just have to put you in touch with the guy. I know. We're not friends, but our daughters are friends.
Put me in touch with him.
Fine.
I love teaching,
Okay. I know.
and I love teaching away from the hub. I have no idea what I just said.
Is that like the food court?
I have no idea what I just said. Away from the hub. That's when they walk you out and put you in your car.
Put you on the ice floe and just push you on out
just
like the old.
yeah. Just
the old
you're
Eskimo
done here. You have
burial.
we haven't understood you for a week. And Dora, drive him home.
You know,
So
lobotomies are easy. Just a quick snip.
is that it?
I'm told
Do you know that I directed One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
that wasn't you.
At Actors Theater
You mean
of
the
Louisville.
play? Oh, I was
The
going to say.
Actors Theater of Louisville.
I was going to say the
certainly
movie.
wasn't
You
me.
didn't direct that movie.
No, and I thought it was a good movie.
It is a good movie.
It's a great play, but I directed it and got really good
So
reviews.
why don't you?
But it was after the most scathing reviews that I'd ever gotten in my life for Tartuffe.
Right, but you were in that. Oh no, you directed that.
Unfortunately, I was in it. I
Yeah.
played Tartuffe,
Yeah.
and I think the headline was Jeffrey Tambor stinks
Nice.
or something. No, it was
All right. Well, that's one
this
person.
guy got this. It's a reviewer.
Yeah. So what?
Yeah, but
So look,
it was.
the-
I'll tell you who it was. It was William Moots, who was a very lettered man and a very.
It's 12:00, by the way.
We should call.
Do I have a number? Is it in the thing?
Yeah,
Teresa's
we're
good.
going to call.
When are we going to get Teresa on this podcast?
She's on it. Her cackling.
Well, she's literally attached to a wire, listening to it across
her
the room.
cackling in the back is back cackling.
Yeah, but we need to. But who's going to have more juicy tales about you than Teresa? Dora.
You sure those pills are in the desk drawer? I don't remember seeing them. You'll check that.
Which pills?
Oh, a sleeping draft I use. That is not. No. It's not. What do you call them? It's not.
Sleep Ambien?
No. I've kicked Ambien.
Yeah, because we have this.
No, we have you.
Wow, that hurts.
Ow.
Am I putting people to sleep over here?
No, you're
I think I'm
actually
the comic relief.
no. But yeah, I was addicted to Ambien.
Yeah,
Yeah, get off that shit.
never had it. I don't like pills.
I don't like pills.
I just like Motrin is about it for me.
Really,
Acetaminophen, Advil.
Yeah.
That's all I'll do.
and I can't take melatonin because I have these scary dreams.
You know what?
What?
It happened to me.
What?
Right. I tried melatonin a few nights.
And you had a nightmare?
I'm having a dream that I'm talking to my wife, just having a conversation, and in the room walks me, and we both were just terrified in my dream, and I woke up and I went, oh, there it is.
Oh. Well, that's open and shut. I mean, that's schizophrenia, and
You
we all
ready?
know that about you.
You ready?
Oh, let me give you a little bit. Oh shit, fuck!
Nah, we'll just make it happen.
Oh, I'm right in the middle of.
Hello.
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 We're gonna play a little intro music.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's horrible. But what do you think of this, Larry? This is Larry Clark, one of the
Hi.
one of the best directors I know of. And
Oh, geez.
your hosts today are Jeffrey Tambor and Stephen Fink. And welcome to what do we call this?
We're not even. It's untitled at the moment.
Acting Schmacting
Acting Schmacting.
or Schmacting.
Hi, Larry. Welcome.
Hi.
What do you think of this music?
Yes, I am Steve.
I think I'm going to sleep.
You see?
That's how you got off Ambien.
Yeah. Well, so we were just singing your praises here.
But don't you feel more relaxed and loose and ready to talk?
I'm very loose.
There you go.
He is very loose. Larry Clark. By the way, Larry, it was funny before we talked to each other yesterday. I Googled you just to see some points, and I had no idea there was this other Larry Clark out there. Did you?
Oh, I did. The photographer?
I guess.
No.
Yeah, he's a famous photographer and director. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
He made,
isn't the guy who did
he made
Kids?
Kids.
Yeah, Kids.
he
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
Kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you were
Yeah.
for weeks.
And so when I came in and I was pitching you, they went, yeah. They, I said no, he's great, and they
It seemed
had
odd.
the wrong Larry Clark,
Yeah, it
and
seemed
I
like
have
a
the right.
strange. Like, how were you in Kids? Like, I
Yeah.
don't remember.
You want to?
Yeah.
You get that
I
a
mean,
lot.
listen, I'm not a famous director. No one's even seen my film yet, so I'm not famous except
Now,
Jeffrey in your mind.
what
Your
is
mind,
the
right?
name? What is the name of your film?
My name is My film is being distributed under the name Life Support internationally. But domestically, they've changed the name. That's one thing that they do with movies, which I did not understand. But people like to change titles. Of course, they're going to change it all over the world, depending on which country it's in. But in the United States, they're changing it to domestically, when we release at the end of the summer, 3 Days with Dad.
I see it.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I
I'm
love
not crazy
Life.
about it, but,
Yeah.
it
Did
is
they?
what it is.
Is that what do they do? Just do market research and all that stuff?
They do.
Yeah.
They actually have a bunch of numbers, and they're selling this movie as a comedy, and it is. It's a dramatic comedy, but I was like, well, it's not a comedy. It's
No.
not a chuckle.
No.
Comedy.
And it moves really. First of all, let me go look, and that's not only because we're friends, but it's really well. This has actually happened. You sent it to me. I watched it immediately, and I wrote you a letter of letters because it just knocked me out. What people don't know is that you. What's going on, Steve?
It's just a hell of a cast. I'm looking at the cast list.
Oh,
here.
well,
And I
let's
have
say.
not seen it, and I apologize, Larry.
So,
but,
name the cast list.
I mean, we got
That's
J.K.
okay.
J.K. Simmons right off the top here.
Yeah.
Leslie Ann Warren,
Yeah.
who I had a big crush on 20 years ago. Brian Dennehy, David Koechner, I love.
Yeah.
Tom Arnold is in there. Look at this.
Yeah. Amy.
Yeah, it's a great cast.
Amy Landecker, yeah.
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 Julianne.
And Larry Clark is the lead.
That's how you
I
do
surround myself. I wasn't stupid. I surrounded myself with great talent.
Yeah. So I sent you a love letter about it. I don't know if you.
No, you did. You were very kind, extremely kind.
Yeah. I don't know if it was about kindness. I was sort of blown away by it. It was way beyond my expectation. And then you got mad at me a little bit because, let's just get it out of the way, you offered me a role in that,
Yeah.
and I wasn't able to do it.
Well, Jeffrey was a part of the fundraising. He made a video. He actually brought people to the project. And I had any number of roles you could have played in the movie.
Oh.
And you got very busy.
Yeah.
And then finally I created one more final role as a hospital administrator
Yes.
that ultimately I would have probably cut anyway.
Yeah.
But
Especially had you seen the film on me. Yes.
yes, but you were.
Oh,
in,
that's
you
funny because I thought I was either J.K. Simmons or that guy in the funeral home.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, well, you could have played anything you wanted, really.
Oh, you're so nice. This guy,
Yeah.
by the way, this Larry Clark has been in part of my support system from the word go, and is truly he and his wife Fielding, who married you, by the way.
She did. Who married me?
Yeah, I know
We had an
she did.
officiant, But we had an officiant, but you were a part of the ceremony, sir.
Didn't I marry you?
No, you weren't the officiant. No.
I wasn't? Oh, my
No.
God.
Was
Someone
this
put me
during
in my car. I'm
Your
losing my
Ambien
mind.
Addiction.
What did I do? Why am I standing under the chuppah there?
You read a very wonderful, very poem, some kind of Jewish poem. I don't know what the heck it was, but it was very beautiful. Whatever you read, we were
I'm
honored.
very worried that I thought I was the officiant,
No, you weren't.
and that really scares me a little bit. That I'm not remembering correctly. So let's go to first of all, Steve.
Yeah.
Tell Larry what this show is and what we're trying to do with this acting schmacting.
Well, we want to get people on the show who are creative and successful at really at any level, but we want to find out from people what got them over their fears to jump out there and do and create and make that call or whatever it is. And also about what's that story you've been telling yourself all your life that keeps you from being, fully self-expressed and keeps you from doubting or keeps you doubting yourself.
And I always use the word scaredy chair. Those people. I actually had a chair in my house, which I called the worry chair, where you just sit and wait for the call from your agents. And they usually, when you're on the 6 o'clock phone list, and, oh, hi, darling, how are you? Yes, we're thinking about you. Yes. Oh, yeah. For the 8 lines in a pilot. And I want to dedicate these shows to those people who are sitting in their scaredy chairs and afraid to move because you moved your ass. I mean, you moved. Can you tell me a little bit about just start somewhere? I mean, what happened?
I'll start somewhere. Well, I think you should let the audience know that I've known you for years, Jeffrey. I studied under.
How?
Jeffrey.
We met at the Atlantic, right?
Yeah, I was doing a play by David Rabe.
That's right.
And Jeffrey came backstage, and you were quite magnanimous. And then a few years later, that was 2001, and then a few years later, I think it was on 2005, I started studying with you down in Santa Monica, and you became my teacher for a long time.
Yeah.
And and Jeffrey kind of changed everything for me. So this podcast obviously is nothing I haven't heard from. If anything, this is what he teaches from this kind of an angle when he's doing, his live teaching. At least he did when I met him back in 2005. This was a lot about what the techniques that he taught, which was pretty much like acting in your life and what's going to get you, he used to say, how do you want to get on the red carpet? How do you ignite that thing inside of you that lets loose this passion and the real you? And so we did a variety of exercises and techniques about that over the years. And, I have to credit Jeffrey with, deciding to do this because, he had us bring in stories. I was doing stand-up in the class, all these things I had never done before. I was singing. He'd have us bring in poetry, and we would bring in artwork, and then he would teach based on you coming up in front of the class. And this class was big; it was like 70 people in it. And in doing so, I started creating. I started telling stories. I started doing all kinds of things. And you, Jeffrey, used to steer me towards, you got to keep going. You got to keep going. So the foundation of all that writing, at the same time I was going to a Naked Angels Theater Company has a reading group out here every Tuesday. And I've been going to that for 15 years. And I wrote this in front of a live, I wrote 10 pages a week and brought it in and performed it in front of a bunch of students. I mean, not students, just actors and writers every Tuesday at this particular bar in Hollywood. And because I'm not really a natural writer per se. I needed to have the immediate feedback, and I also wanted to, with this particular film, I wanted to relate something that was so personal, my father's death, and also some of my mother's death and that experience. And I wanted to relate that in a movie, but at the same time, it was so absurd and funny, a lot of funny moments, that I wanted to keep it funny. So it was essential that I find the humor and at the same time the pathos. And that's a very hard line to walk, especially for a first-time writer. So I did it live, and I really did it for the laughs. I really did. I tried, or I asked people, "Are you interested in this project?" And I would talk to people immediately, and they encouraged me to keep bringing back 10 pages and 10 pages and 10 pages until eventually I had a script. And then I just rewrote it, and I would be bringing it back. And I did it live, really. I did it live in front of an audience, and that inspired me. And, I'm not a kind of guy that you can kind of like lock me in a room and I can write a script. I'm an actor. I'm a storyteller. I get very fidgety. So the idea of reading this live in front of an audience was really inspired me. And I think it's a great technique. At least for me, it's been great. I've finished about 5.
I love what you say about 10 pages, 10 pages, 10 pages, because I think the toughest thing going, and Steve is a musician, and he comes from a different discipline, but we're all talking the same language, is one of the toughest things about creation is sitting down and just writing. I remember just writing, when we were writing my book, I just went, they almost had to put me in a home. I just, no, really. And I made serious mistakes because oh gosh, I just
so difficult.
It's so
it's
difficult.
It's really difficult for me to sit down.
Yeah.
I realized that my technique was a lot of gestating, which is procrastination, but you kind of live with whatever the material is in your mind. You kind of walk around with it for a couple of days. And I'd knock stuff around in my head, and then finally when I sit down, then I bang it out. But it's usually at the last second. I've got a few hours, and then I bang it out.
Now, let me ask you a question. It's rudimentary, but it was something that was very, and Steve, pipe in on this. I just, sometimes when I was writing, and I would have it in my head, or I don't know if either one of you talk to yourselves. Do you talk to yourself?
I don't.
I do.
Out loud? You mean kind of? No, but seriously.
Out loud.
Like that kind of?
Out loud.
No, I don't do that.
I talk out loud to myself.
Okay.
I interview myself Johnny Carson style. Which, no, I do. I as if I'm on a talk show. And apparently I'm not alone in the world on that. But when I sit down to write that, it's not the same. Something has happened from those words to when I start to type.
Do you record yourself saying these things?
I do now. But even that is problematic. But the writing, the words are not the same, right, Larry?
Yes, the words are not the same. It's separate. I think it's a separate thing. But to me, I'm always challenging myself. Before I write, I go, "What?" I mean, I don't have to write. I'm an actor, right? I've done that for a living. So I said, if I'm going to write, I want to write something that I want to do and I want to act. And if I'm not acting these lines, I want someone else to be excited. So I start with an idea that really excites me, and then I keep it up there. You know what I mean? Like, my whole thing is like, if I can't lose my attention within at all. I gotta constantly be like, no, let's go to the heart of this scene. Let's raise the stakes. I want to make this as interesting or as funny as possible.
But how do you deal with?
I entertain myself by writing that way. It's entertaining.
How do you deal with doubt, though? Because I'm a songwriter, and I don't ever like my lyrics. I've written maybe 5 lyrics in my life that I like out of the 100 songs I've written. How do you get over the doubt when you think no one's going to like this?
Well, you know, honestly, I think, and again, because I did this in front of this particular theater company, I started to get responses, and I got a big response right away. And then people had expectations, and I thought it'd be like, hey, I'm pretty good at this. At least 10 pages at a time, I'm pretty good at it. And I also knew that I'm very good I'm a dialogue-driven writer. The other stuff I'm horrible at, like opening scene takes place in. Oh God,
I can't do any
horrible
of
at
that. I can't either.
I'm horrible, and I can't stand it. So it's very, very little bit of that. So that's actually very hard for me to write.
Yeah.
And you know what's strange? We talk about doubts. I have no doubts when it's just me in control. But when I have to turn my material over,
That's me.
Very, very like. So, for example, when they made this movie, they had to send it out. They do this thing where they do a corporate. What the hell is this thing? They kind of investors review your movie in a way. They have this company, these guys that tell you whether they think it's a good investment. So it's like a review before your movie even gets started. And when they told me they sent that out to these guys, these corporate, they called. Anyway, you get back these reviews, and I'm like, oh my God. And so I kept kind of apologizing for it, saying, well, it's going to change. And, I'm not like, it's not solidified. I kept kind of saying that, like, they're going to respond to this, but it's really not, the movie's always going to change. So why are they reading it? Oh God, So it made me very uncomfortable when it was out of my control.
I had the same problem. It was a little. Well, it was stupid. I didn't hand over my book until almost till the people couldn't, the salespeople and the marketing people. It was too late. I mean, I was still making changes when I was recording the book. I was saying, "Oh, that's not right. That's not right." And so
it's never done.
It's never done.
It's never done, is it?
Yeah, no,
it's never done.
No.
I mean, I can make changes forever.
Now, did you do this through your agent, or did you do this on your own deal?
Own deal.
Wow. So I want to talk about that because we had.
I created an LLC. I created my own company. I found these two producers who do this. I think they had no idea the challenge they were up for, but they were impressed with the material, but more impressed with the actors that I had gotten together. And they were like, "Wow, who is this guy?" And I said, "Well, these are a lot of my friends, and they've offered to, be a part of this."
Did you have Mr. Dennehy by then?
Once I got Brian, the project was a go.
Yeah.
I needed a father.
Yeah, you needed a hero. Yeah.
And I needed a hero, and he was the top choice.
Oh, great! You got your first choice.
So you play yourself.
Yeah, and I got him because I know Kathleen Dennehy. I've known her for a very long time. And Kathleen actually was she does script notes, and she has a reading night. So I used to read this at her house too.
Oh my God.
So when I sent this to her, I said, "Can you go over the script because I'm horrible at finding errors in my writing, and can you make it more professional?" And so she did. And when she finished it, her mother had just died, and she said, "Listen, this is hard for me to read." She goes, "But my mom just died, but my dad is not working right now, and he'd be great in this. He'd love to do this." And I said, "Do you think your dad would do it?" She goes, "Yeah, send it to him." I go, "Oh my God!" So I sent it to him.
It's amazing.
And then we had a phone call, and I'll never forget it. I was outside of Gold's Gym, and I sat down on the curb, and I talked to Brian Dennehy about my writing, which I just could not believe.
Wow.
And he was like, "You're not going to get any money in this, am I?" And I go, "No." I said, "This is an independent film, Brian." He goes, Yeah. He goes, "Well, I really like your script. I'll do it."
Wow. What a moment. That's
and that started the whole ball rolling, and it legitimized it for me. I was like, here's this icon, this guy I grew up with, like just wanting to be, and in some ways, he kind of opened up the character actor field in a way that has never been done in movies before. At least the guys who were big and white like me, like he looked a lot like me. So
yeah, I was going to say
always,
there's a resemblance.
Yeah, so he was always playing the big guy, but at the same time, he was kind of sexy and swaggering, and he had that unbelievable confidence in every role he ever did. So I always aspired to that. And then when I got him in my movie, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I was just kicking myself the whole time.
Yeah, and I don't want to elide over something that's kind of, again, this is to the kids on the scaredy couch. But There is, something that we talked about in class, and something that I err about all the time is the gentle tug on somebody asking for help. And there's always more energy put into the inertia of doing that rather than, oh, my dad would be interested in that. And you go, oh my God, that was about as easy a thing as happened. It just happened to me the other day where I was so scared to call somebody about something. And the inertia of what I was doing weighed 1,000 pounds. The call that I finally made weighed about 8 ounces and was the easiest phone call I've ever made. And they went, oh, sure. And it actually went like that. And I can't impress upon the listener at home the value of what you just said. You just, you just keep casting those lines out until there's a
I mean, I had been a frustrated director for many years, and whenever I'm on a TV show or on a set, I'm usually giving suggestions, if you can believe it, to people like Steven Soderbergh and the Wachowski sisters. They made the freaking Matrix, and I'm like, listen, this line here, and can I do that? They're like, oh, sure. And generally, they're always open to it, but I can't keep my mouth shut.
Yeah,
I cannot keep my mouth shut when I'm on set because
that's
I want to make it better.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I've had this voice for a long time inside of me, and I knew I could do it. I knew directing. I've been studying the craft for a long time, from inside, from all these hundreds of sets I've been on, and plus I've made a few smaller projects and whatnot.
I did that on Barney Miller. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you who I did it to, Hal Linden. And my sentence was, I thought it was blocking, and they were in some sort of blocking thing, and I tapped him on the shoulder and I said, oh, I think I can help you here. I said, and I meant blocking, and I was sent to Coventry. I was not talked to. I was like, I became instant fecal matter on that set.
God.
So I have the same. I have the same because he misunderstood me. I think he thought I could help him in his acting, and I meant it was a blocking thing. So. All right, so you didn't use an agent, you didn't use a manager, you used a phone call, and you.
And I did an indie. I went online and I did a raised money online.
I remember that. Yep, I remember that.
And that's when it really started getting real for me. So I had to do a director's reel. I had to get very specific about what I was asking money for from people.
Did you Did you do a sizzle reel?
Yes, I did. I did a director's sizzle reel, and then I also did a reel with all the actors who I was going to put in it, talking to the camera. And so, I mean, I got Brian to do it. I got everybody to do it. And the idea of JK came up because I know JK, and that was soon after he had won the Academy Award. And I was just like, listen, I know everybody's, I don't know him well, but we've worked with each other over the years. So, and I know one of his dear friends too, is one of his best friends, is a very good friend of mine. So I reached out and said, listen, can you just make a funny video and tell me that you're not going to do my movie? And I'm going to put it in the video.
This is terrible.
And that's what he did. And at the end of his little thing, he said, I might even read your script, Larry. So that was like a little joke that he did.
Wonderful.
And so I didn't get JK until I was done shooting a third of the movie, and I had to take a break because I had no more money. The original
Tell me about that. What happened? I love it. Tell me what happened.
I had to shoot the movie at 3 stages. I didn't have enough money to shoot the whole movie. At one point I did, and then I lost all the money.
What happened?
This guy, this happens a lot. A lot of people pull out at the last second for no reason.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Or, you know what they did to me? At the last second, he goes, listen, if you cut all the flashback sequences and make this thing linear, I'll give you the money. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's a nonlinear. I said, the whole thing is nonlinear. It starts off at the funeral, then it jumps around. And they're like, well, we don't think it's going to work. I was like, oh, God. I was like, anyway, people play with your mind.
Now, how did you get through that mentally and all those words? How'd you
You
get?
know, I was pretty driven by that point, and I said, I'm going to make this no matter what. I mean, I'd gotten so close. I was tasting it. I cleared schedules with everybody. And when they pulled that money out, I was like, I'm going to make it. So I went to my guys and I said, listen, how much do we need to shoot Brian Dennehy out? Because if I shoot Brian, and at least I'll have Brian in the can. And you know, and Brian is elderly. So I had to really worry about his health. And he was in good health. I was like, you know, and this is going to be a hard set for him to be on. So,
And was everybody
figured
changing in their cars and all that stuff?
it wasn't cars. No, we actually did have, we actually shot on location. So we always had to give him a dressing room, believe it or not. We had, as a part of his contract, he always had a dressing room. And then Leslie had to have a dressing room in her contract. And then Tom Arnold said he didn't need a dressing room. But then when he got there, he looked so lost. I had to give him a dressing room.
Yeah. I want to
he
stop.
did.
I want to stop on Tom Arnold, and just say he's magnificent in the film, and totally different. And Tom
Yeah.
Arnold and that movie he did with Schwarzenegger, which was it True Lies? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Tom Arnold's a good actor.
He's
He
real.
really is.
I know.
And-
I mean, he's the real deal.
And he has a certain movie star quality.
He
Yeah,
does.
it was fearless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's point on. He's specific. I believe him with those glasses, and I believe him that character and that relationship. And I go, this guy is good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
met him, and I was auditioning for him for a movie he made, an independent he made, where he was starring, and I was supposed to play his best friend. And we got along really well. I almost got in it, but I think ultimately my manager told me that we look too much alike. I mean, we're both these like bug-eyed, kind of like, you know, jumping around people. Like we have, you know, these big faces, and we kind of like talk fast. And they were like, no, you look too much alike. They're going to think you're brothers, and it won't work. But we got along really well in the audition. I'll never forget that.
Mm.
So when his manager floated his name to me, I was like, Tom, fantastic. So, you know, we sent the script to Tom. And, you know, Tom's father had just died. And he was pretty down about it. And he was like, listen, I like your script, and I believe in it, and I want to do it. So
It's great. So you're out of money, and you've stopped filming, and you shot Brian out. Now what do you do?
then you raise more money.
Yeah.
And then I got JK based on that. I edited that material, and I sent out that as like a preview to investors. And I sent it to JK, and he was so impressed. He goes, "Okay, I'll do it." He says, "But I only got a day, so whatever role you want to give me." And so that role I gave him was really written for like a young guy in his 20s. He was supposed to be a guy from Jersey in his 20s, and he said, because he said, "I like that role. Can you make him old?" And I went, "You got it."
That's
So
great.
we changed the role, and we shot him out.
Right.
He shot for 13 hours straight. He didn't even ask for any overtime. And he shot 4 scenes in one day. So I got the whole crew together, and we shot for one day, and we shot out JK.
I hope the young and old are out there listening and understanding what this is, because this,
Well, you don't want to do this in movie making. You don't want to get the whole crew together. First of all, you got to get a separate crew. No one wants to work for one day. And plus, getting the troops together. I mean, I got to get 50 people together and a number of locations for one day. Generally, you want to shoot a whole movie all at once. It's the cheaper way to do it because you have everybody. So the way you don't want to shoot for one day. But when you're working with JK and he's offering to work for free, essentially, I mean, just paid him whatever paid everybody else. I would move the earth and moon and the stars to work with that guy.
Now, so
And,
you gave yourself the lead, and
Yeah.
so in your head, as you are acting, you're playing the character. On the other hand,
Yes.
you have tomorrow's schedule and the fact that so and so is asking for this, and craft service has run out of all food.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, to me, the acting was the easiest part. The directing was the second easiest. The writing was pretty hard, but the producer side of me was the hardest.
Yeah.
and that's the one that I don't have a lot of skills at. So, and I get very frustrated, and I have a temper, and I had to really.
Oh,
watch it.
really? I know you have a temper. I know you have a temper.
I didn't lose it. I didn't lose it until a little bit near the end. I lost a little bit on my DP. He kind of played with me a little bit, and I didn't like that. And I was pretty tired.
Who played with you?
My DP, my director of photography. We started to kind of disagree a little bit. As is, I mean, we were spending days and days and days together and shooting under incredible pressure. So of course something's going to crack, you know. And you have no money. You can't go overtime at all. Like, you can't do overtime. Like, it's with this crew. You got to stop exactly at whatever we stopped at, 7 o'clock.
Right.
So whatever you get is done. If not, you're done. Like, we had a budget. We had no extra money, literally within pennies. So you got to finish. So the pressure is pretty big to get the shot. Yeah. And there's usually a reason why you can't get it. It's usually, you know, so for example, we were shooting the scene where Brian is getting into his wheelchair and he misses the wheelchair, and we catch him, and then Mo's playing my sister, and she falls on the ground. And it's this scene where we're just trying to get him into a wheelchair, get him out, and it becomes this thing. That was an important scene for me to shoot. And we only had 15 minutes to shoot that scene.
50 or 15?
15.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And so my producers came up to me and they say, we're going to have to cut the scene. You don't really need it, Larry. It doesn't really move the story along this story. And I said, no, we got to shoot this scene. And the DP goes, let's do it. So he really saved my ass that day. He goes, let's set it up quick. Let's go. And like, we rushed. And I think it came down to the last minute, and the crew agreed to stay on set for like an extra 5 minutes or so. And we finished it. Yeah.
Wow.
We shot it with 2 cameras. We did it twice, and it was done.
Wow. That's amazing.
How long?
Anyway, as far as let me just say one more thing as far as what you're saying about you have to talk to the writer. When you're the writer and the director, you got to have you got to talk to the writer. and he's talking about talking to yourself, but he's in your head.
Yeah.
So you really have to actually go, okay, listen. Can we talk about your script? And I'm like, yeah, let's talk about it. You know, you've got to go back to each other.
Well,
because the director goes, listen, I love your words, but I've got to make this come alive.
What I like about
make some changes.
Yeah.
And you're like, yes, okay, director, go ahead. So like that's all happening, and I had to get, you know, and that doesn't stop. You know, that stuff doesn't stop. But I'm very comfortable with changes on the fly. In other words, I would get on set and I would block, and we would read through, block, and then we shoot the rehearsal. And but during the read through, the writer would be in the room, me, and I would say, oh, that's horrible. Cut that. Can you add this? Can you do this? Oh, hey, Leslie Ann, here's an idea. Can you come in and do that? You know, I would do that a lot. I'd come up with new lines. I would hear it for the first time, or you have to change it depending on the location. You know, when you write something, you're not thinking about certain locations.
Right.
You know, and sometimes you got to fit the location.
Well, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, but because I was watching you. I was watching your face and your eyes a lot, and I couldn't tell that there were, you know, the noise that must have been going on in your brain as you were actually enacting the scene, and somehow you pulled that off. You're very well. I just want to go on record, and I'm pretty sure I was your officiant, by the way. Anyway, all
I can tell you is that whenever we acted on the set, I felt a great relief to the act. I'd let everything go and be Eddie, and it was really comforting. Like I saw that. So that's what I am. I'm an actor.
You are an actor.
That was the easiest thing, and that was in some ways it was like the pay for going through all this bullshit was finally getting in the scene and just going, oh God. And a lot of times I didn't even know my own lines. I was like, what are my lines? What the hell did I write for this scene?
Yeah.
You know. And but that was the easiest part.
Yeah.
I really, you know, and then also the problem is I couldn't watch the monitor. That wasn't so great. But you know, in the old days when they made movies, they watched it from live.
I know.
Monitors.
I know.
So
I'm pre what do they call that, tent city or whatever is it called? I'm pre-monitor. You know, my directors were on the set.
Amazing.
Right there.
And I couldn't see playback either. I didn't have playback.
Oh
So,
my God.
I mean, a couple times I did playback. A couple. We didn't have time. We didn't have time to do playback.
That's kind of cool, though.
The DP would say to me, he goes, "Screw playback. Let's just shoot another one.
Yeah.
Just shoot another one, and I'll tell you whether it's good." And then the really important, like the oneers, sometimes we would. We had a
Always.
oneer.
Always.
I would look at it, but
Always.
even then you're missing some stuff.
Yeah.
You know. But
Yeah.
so when I'm on set, you know what's interesting is that it comes down to tempo and whether you hear it, not necessarily even whether you see it. I would listen to it while I was in the scene.
Absolutely.
And you can tell you're listening. It's a tempo thing. You know whether the scene's going if the tempo's right.
Right, and there's a sound of confidence, and there's a sound of confluence, and it's working, and it kind of reminds you of when you were writing it and how you heard it.
Exactly. And,
yeah.
and normally with me, I'm also trying to make people talk all over each other.
Yes, I love
like
that.
it
By
being
the way, yeah, I love that. Yeah,
I love the mishmash of life. I love things. I would always walk on the sets and say everything's too organized. I would always throw everything around, and I'd also come up with an actors to do something, put something in their way. I always want, as an actor, I always want to do something, and you should be always trying to do something when you're acting.
Yes.
There should be a struggle. I think it's great watching actors to work through either in blocking or through a prop or whatever. I'm always throwing things at them to deal with.
Yeah.
And
Did you
that,
ever?
I think
Did you ever try to
Right.
do? Did you ever try to do bad takes?
I didn't have time.
Yeah, I understand.
We had natural bad takes, Jeffrey.
You had organic bad taste.
Yeah, we were shooting every rehearsal. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I had to shoot 11 pages a day, 10 to 11 pages a day. So,
Yeah.
How long was the project from concept to completion?
I mean, I started writing this thing about, 6 years ago in that workshop. When we started actual production, pre-production started in 2016. We shot it in 2017, and I've been in post for 2 years, pretty
Oh, wow.
much. I mean, October will be, 2 years to the point, and hopefully the movie will be in the theaters by the frickin' second year. I mean, post has been killer. I mean, that is the hardest part of movie making as well.
Why?
Very-
Why? Very few people know what you're talking about. And post is what? What is post?
Post is editing. Post is dealing with all your sound issues. Post is going through every ounce of footage, and then going through various edits and trying to make people happy, trying to make your producers happy. And
Why the producers happy?
because they got to sell your picture
Oh,
to distributors, and then you have distributors saying, "Well, I won't buy it if it's this way. I'll buy it if it's that way." I have people tell me to punch up the comedy, Larry. I don't want all this sad stuff. And I'm like, listen, my movie was originally entitled Dying 101. It was like, I was like, guys, it's called Dying 101. Like, you're gonna know what you're gonna get with this movie. It is what it is. I did not, Will Ferrell's not in this movie. This is not one of those pictures. And there was a lot of that, a lot of fighting for it to live in this place where it could really. I wanted it to move people, and at the same time entertain. Yes, but ultimately it was from my heart, and I wanted I wanted all that stuff to be in there. Because listen, I made this movie because when I went through this, when my father died, my mother died, they were horrific experiences. But in the same sense, I was very moved, but also blown away about how absurd the end of life is. And I didn't know anything about that until I went through it. And when I say absurdity, it's everything that's in the movie: the business end, the pain, but also the fracturing of the family. And there's a lot of laughs. There's a lot of weird things that happen. And I thought while I was going through it, I was like, God, this is like an interesting movie. I wonder if I could do it.
well, I am actually, or we are, producing a streamer that we are in sort of midstream, no pun intended, with right now. And I asked for some writers And they said, well, what's it about? And I said, it's about this guy who loses his wife in an accident, and it happened to a friend of mine. And honestly, the reason I said, can I play you to my friend is it's one. He would tell me some of the stories that were the funniest things I had ever heard in my life. And I said, send me some writers. And they sent me all these scripts of all these autumnal writers with these sad, because I said the word death. And everyone goes right to, oh, it's death. And I do remember, I think I may have told you about this in class, where my dad came home from the hospital, and he had lost so many, and I mean, he was coming home to die. And his last, he got out of the car, but he had lost so much weight that his pants fell around his ankles. And we screamed with laughter.
Yeah.
We were pounding the car, and I went, there's that thing in you where you grieve, but you also say, remember this as an actor for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
So I got that from your, I got that from you. I just think it's so interesting that people who want to help. I'm very interested in your guy who pulled out. See, I think that's the part that you can't control.
That happens. I mean, the challenge to a creative project. First of all, I think movie making is the hardest thing you can do on the planet, I'm including like heart transplants, and it is, the stress of it is unreal, and it never stops. It's unrelenting. But the stress is things that go wrong. You have to really have a good crew of people that can respond to things that go wrong. And every day something will happen on set that'll sink you, and it'll say you're not going to get this day. And for a big project, that's okay. But for a little project, you can't lose a day. That day was worth $26,000 for me. Every day was $26,000. At least with this ridiculous SAG contract I agreed to shoot under, which was giving actors $300 a day. I don't know why we got caught in that project. I wanted to pay them $100 a day, but they stuck me in this one where I'm paying them $300 a day. So,
what's the difference?
Well, one's a limited contract and one's a small independent. The difference is $300.
I know.
$200.
I know.
And when you're producing, and you're starting to look at those, even though anyway. In other words, you bring your friends into the movie. They were like, "Listen, I want to play a small role," and I'm like, "Well, I'm going to pay you $300." So no, I'm not going to put you in it. I'm not going to cut you a check. And by the end, I had some guys working. They say you don't have to pay me.
So your movie is not sold yet.
No, it is. I have distribution international. It's being introduced. Distributed by Phoenix Pictures internationally. Here, it's being distributed by Unified, and an output deal they have through Sony. And we're still going to be doing streaming deals, and I own the picture still.
Oh, good. Keep owning it. Because it's great. And if anybody's listening to me out there, this is an important film and an entertaining film. And it's not, it doesn't look independent or $100 a day or whatever. Anyway, I have to ask you a question. One of the things that we are asking, what do you mean?
I thought you were going to bring that up.
What?
What Mamet said.
What did he say?
What Larry did. Don't go to film school.
Oh, why don't you say that since you're co-host? He puts a note in front of me. It says Mamet. I go, what the fuck does that mean?
Just,
all right.
Say
it. You ask Larry.
Well, we had David Mamet on a few weeks ago, and we were talking about advice. Someone had, I think it was a mother of a student who was getting ready to consider film school. Said to him, she said to him, what should he do? And Mamet said, don't go to film school, just make your film. And he said, it's such a great quote. Now I forget it, but this you're in a time of small needs. This is the time to go for it. This is the time to make your film, rather than spend your time watching films for 4 years and discussing them. This is the time to go and make it.
Well, I think every person's situation is unique. I'm in my 50s, and I've spent my entire life in show business. So it was time for me to make my movie, and I'd already learned how to make a movie by being involved with this process for a long time. So it was a natural thing. But I'm talking to people who are kids. I mean, everyone has their own. I mean, listen, I really do believe that the only way to start learning about storytelling and movie making is to get a camera and start telling stories, and seeing if you have, if it's a passion and you're any good at it. And if you think you're really good at it, great. And then put it in front of people and see if they respond.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Did your DP block your scenes, or did you block your scenes?
I blocked the scene.
Oh, because one of the things I heard about Kazan when he first started was that he would rehearse the actors, and then he would the DP would get in there and help him block it. Now, I may be wrong on this, but
yeah. Well, they ultimately they don't. The DP the DP goes, show me what you want, and I'll light it, and I'll shoot it. But you have to present your scene to the DP.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay, I can do that. So I generally and then I'd already had talked to him before with my idea of, I'll shoot this as a oneer. I want this kind of a camera. We had 2 cameras, so I always had to have an idea of how to block this and shoot it with my shot list with him. And I had talked it over with each scene. But of course, when you get there live and you have the actors,
right,
it becomes a different animal. But he would always say, block it out. Show me what you got. And, so I love camera blocking. To me, it's everything to have energy, start a scene with energy, start a scene with movement. And the camera is always saying something, however you're using it. It's always saying something. Have a perspective is what I would always say to myself, before I shot a scene that I'd written. And I'd say, get a perspective, choose a perspective. And then I'd say, no, that's not good enough. Try something else. So there was a lot of that, pushing myself inside to get more and more specific, get as specific as you can before you shoot a scene about why the hell we're telling this, why are we doing the scene? So you got to really, get to the heart of it before you even get on set. You better know what you're doing.
Right.
And yeah, and then when you're on set, then you get this wonderful chance to play and let the actors kind of reimagine it.
And how were you in that? Because some people have, there are some newbies who have trouble letting go of their material. How were you on that? Because
that's a problem. I've never really liked those directors, and we normally don't have a great outcome, I think. I like to let actors go a little bit, and I say, listen, go a little free with the words here, get inspired. I would let
that's a big sentence you just said. That's a huge sentence you just said.
Go. I say it's yours. The character's yours. Go.
Wow.
I'll be on set with you. I'll respond to whatever you say. If you get inspired, say something in the moment, because a lot of these are family scenes, so it's got to look like we're family and we have history, and so family talks a certain way to each other.
That's true.
And that's very fast, and it's very families talk and they interrupt each other, and they, I had to see that. I had to see that kind of immediacy of history.
Are you playing yourself in this? Is this mostly autobiographical or just based on?
I created Eddie. He kind of has to be this sad sack of a guy. Yeah, he's based on me, but he's an amalgamation of me during my life. So he's a loser, kind of. He doesn't know what he's doing in his life. He's middle aged. He's around 45 in the movie, and he's a doorman. And he's living this life of just kind of floating, and he drinks too much.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So anyway, that used to be me. I've been sober for years, but it's much more interesting to watch someone struggle with drinking than it is to watch a guy who's sober. So I created him as a bit of a drunk,
and I don't want to do a spoiler on it because how you end up. in the film and whom you end up with, but that actress is phenomenal.
Yes, she is.
I'm
Julianne Emery is unbelievable.
I
Yes,
am
she is.
unaware. Tell me about it. How did you find her?
I met her through friends. She's been working consistently. Oh my God, for years. And I met her through a friend, and I've been watching her career forever. But a lot of people don't know about Julie is that she's really a driven writer and producer. And so I've met her on a couple independent readings and projects that we did together. Like we're trying to raise money for some other films. And I talked to her, and she's really got it together. Like she's driven as an actress to make her own stuff. So I called her and I said, "Listen, are you in?" And she was 100% in right away. And I'd never shot anything with her. I just knew her again through all these little projects and readings and whatnot. But she said yes. And then when she got on set, she was unbelievable.
Yeah.
You got to have a certain type of actor that knows that you're shooting an independent movie, and then I'm going to throw her into all of a sudden she was driving like a stick shift or something. No, it wasn't a stick shift, but it was a big truck that we got from the AD. Where it was like, use my truck, and so they had to fit a film crew in there, and we didn't have any, we couldn't block off traffic, and she had to back up this thing illegally on the street, and it was just you've got to have someone who's balls out, ready to get the shot.
Yeah, there was a lot of confidence that emanated from her, and the way you brought that character around and how you introduced that round is quite fantastic. One of the things we do on this show, by the way, this is brand new, and I think it came out from when we had Adrian on the set, right? Is that
Andrea?
Yeah, that's probably why that interview didn't go great. Is her name Andrea?
Her name is still Andrea. Yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll just edit those names out. And we have found out that there's a story that helps us, and there's a story that keeps us. I mean, for instance, one of my stories is I talk about it in the book. That my mom always used to say to my brother and I, "Stick dreck," which means pieces of shit. You're pieces of shit. You'll always be pieces of shit, and that's literally one of my stories. And the other one of my stories is my dad saying, worry equals worth, and I was the dutiful son in that. Do you have any stories that you had to overcome to? Is there a Larry Clark story that keeps him?
Yes. I mean, my story is, what if you were born with opportunity, all the health, talent? I'm a reasonably good-looking guy. I can do anything I want in this world. And why would I choose to just drink and do drugs and let my life go by? I mean, that to me it was always a struggle with procrastinating and sitting on the sidelines and being sarcastic and sardonic and poking fun, and also just being a lazy actor who said, I could do that, but I would sit on the sidelines. And it's really the worst part of me. And I've been battling that guy all my life. And so finally, when it came to this project, I said, well, you wrote it and it's time to go. Let's make this thing happen. And, I had to really work at it to believe that I could pick up phones and I could take these actions. That was the hardest part about this project, is deciding in your own head that you can do it and then taking an action. So picking up those phones, man, were heavy phones to pick up.
1,000-pound phone,
heavy.
yeah.
And I got to pick up a phone and ask for help. And every time, generally everyone said yes. It was unbelievable. I was like, you want to do my movie? They're like, okay. I was like, oh, you do? Oh, geez, that's great. Okay.
Everyone in the studio is a studio. Everyone in this janitor closet is shaking their head yes. And in other words, everybody's affirming what you said.
Well, and there's also, and I literally would play a song before I would make phone calls. You might want to look up this song. Have you ever heard it by Mint Royal? It's called The Ring with Willem Dafoe. And it's Willem Dafoe talking. Have you heard this song, Jeffrey?
No.
Yeah.
Well, it's called. You got to play it. You have to listen to this. They called him, and he read this. He reads, and it's this highly inspirational rock video about changing your life, and he narrates it.
The Ring.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's called
I found
Ring. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna have
And
it.
I played this,
I'm gonna have it implanted. Yes.
and that song I had to play it while I was walking around before I would take an action and he would talk about his whole thing is throw it all away and make a choice. Do it. Do whatever. Do it now. And I'm listening to this rock music. I'm listening to Willem Dafoe, and I'd hang up, and then I'd make a call, literally, after I listened to this song, because of him saying that's the kind of courage I needed, because again, complacency and self-doubt in your own mind, that's the only thing you have to overcome.
Wow.
And then anything's impossible. Anything's possible after that. But it's really we're our own worst enemy in not moving, in staying in that, what you say, that chair.
Yeah.
And I always thought my life would change by having agents and managers call me and give me my career. And it never happened.
No.
And no one ever has gotten my voice. And another reason why I made this movie is that I'm a character actor, but I can lead a movie. I've never led a movie before. And I said, a guy like me, people can watch me for an hour and a half and be entertained and moved because I'm not the good looking, quote unquote, lead. And I think more movies should be like this, and more movies were like this before. So this was kind of like my coming out to Hollywood saying, hey, I got a lot more things here and a lot more power in my acting and my abilities than you guys have allowed me to show. I can have a love scene, I'm not just the cop or a garbage guy or the frickin', IRS tax collector, all these roles that I've played over my life. I can be the frickin' lead. And so I put my money where my mouth was and I had to show them. Good. I mean, this is kind of what drove me in this project, to put me in it, because I knew I could control the tone from inside the movie, because it's what I've been trying to do with my acting all my life. Be this kind of funny, intense guy, which is what I am. I got this ability to be funny and dry, but at the same time, there's an intensity to my work. And normally when I work, they're usually, using one aspect of that. But when you see Eddie, he's kind of using all of that. And I just really relished that on set. So when you talk about being on set, yeah, it was like, wow, finally I get a chance to show what I can do.
It's we're sort of stunned by that, because what you just said is why we've created this podcast, because that story that you just told is literally the essence of what we have found out to be this the podcast. And I thank you for your honesty. That I'm stunned by that, and that's why. By the way, for people out there, this is one. Not only has he pulled this movie off, but this is really one of our really, really fine character actors. And that you say, do you want to waste your life on being the post office guy, or the second cop, or it's just
I mean, Phil Hoffman used to talk about this. Phil Seymour Hoffman, he was a buddy of mine.
Oh.
And Phil used to be interviewed, and he'd be like, why can't I be seen as the sexy guy? Why can't I? He goes, because of the way I look. And he's like, and I've always related to Phil, because I was like, listen, I got the same kind of body. I'm kind of trapped in this big guy. And inside, I'm a whole different guy. But I can't change my body. Inside, I'm a rather svelte ballerina or something. There's something else inside. But I'm limited by this visage of people seeing me as this big, kind of lumbering football player guy.
You have your hair. What about if you're bald? Then you're immediately a principal, or a counselor, or the bad boss, the Fred Clark boss on Dick Van Dyke.
Wacky
Yeah,
neighbor.
but
Yeah,
but
the
you
wacky.
can also add facial hair. I have no facial hair.
Oh, all right. Well,
You were rocking that mustache for years.
I know. That was my Phil. What was his name? Phil Phil who?
Phil Silvers?
Oh no, Dr. Phil.
Those were my
Oh, that was
Dr. Phil
Dr.
days.
Yeah.
But people thanking me on the street for saving their lives. I went, oh, well, how's that going for you?
That
Really?
is hilarious.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is hilarious.
yeah.
Actually, you guys could do a segment.
yeah. Well, I was on his show. We put our heads together.
But he wasn't
Oh
happy
my God, I
about
got to
it.
see that episode. I have not seen that episode.
Yeah, and I don't think he was happy about that. I don't think that was the moment that he's going to put in his little treasure chest.
Well,
Yeah.
no one really knows what they're going to get into when they actually meet you, Jeffrey. Everyone has a different idea of what you are until they meet you. You're a force of nature, and they don't really realize the intelligence and how really funny you are live. You are a force of nature.
Well, I have this rather dour face, and now my kids come up to me and say, "What's wrong?" And I go, "It's my face. This is my